Here we are again with another video about Pillar of Light. I'm Andrew Knaupp.
And I'm Velluto. And on this video, we would like to talk about page 3 of our graphic novel, Pillar of Light. In this page, Joseph starts narrating a story, and it says, "It began when I was 12 years old." We're trying to describe with pictures what the Smith's farm looked like at the time when Joseph was 12 years old, and what his family looked like at that same time. As far as the Smith's farm, that was a property that they had purchased just a few years ago, a few years before. So that was still in development. They were still trying to clear some land for the different kind of stuff that they were raising. I don't know if they already had some apple trees there.
I'm sure the trees there were some trees there. The maple trees, of course, were there.
Yes,
but yeah, everything else they had to plant and clear and make room for growing crops. Yeah.
I mean, the area was already an established area. It wasn't that big, Palmyra, but there was a lot of agriculture in place. So they acquired this land, and they were trying to do their best to make it profitable. And we indicated all the names. Initially, we were thinking about indicating the ages also, but that would have been too much. But you can tell what the ages were by the pictures. And there was particular attention given on the way that they were dressed, and Andrew has been very, very helpful and gave exact direction on the way they were dressed. And there were some misconception about the way they were dressed at the time. And Andrew had to, explain to me over and over again sometimes, because I fell into the trap of doing the classic interpretation of Joseph just with the shirt, walking around, and Andrew had to explain to me, that was basically their underwear.
Yeah, it was scandalous to just walk around in just your shirt with suspenders and stuff.
Had to put a vest, which was what they wore at all times. You will see that even when he goes to the sacred grove, he is dressed for the occasion. We are in 1820, but the way these people are dressed still are have some echoes of the 1700s.
They still look to England for all their fashion. So any of you who've seen Pride and Prejudice, or those same period films set in the 1816s to 1820s, that is how they dressed in the United States. They copied their fashion from England. And so the coats, the waistcoats as they were calling them, we call them vests, the waistcoats, the jackets, the hats, the women's fashion was all from England, and they followed it, and the women were making most of their clothing. And so it was a sign of being a good woman is that all your family's clothing was tailored. So when you'd hand something down, you would tailor it down to that person to fit them. So everything was very fitted. The loose kind of baggy look that you see sometimes in Trek or different things is really not how they would have dressed.
The Smiths family was not a rich family. They were actually quite poor. Their clothes were not rich clothes, but they were still worn with dignity. So that was something that we wanted to convey with the images. Another thing that we also wanted to represent was the fact that they were a very industrious family, and they were busy with many things. Everybody, even the little ones, were helping. So I did a scene with the two little girls, selling the cookies to the neighbors, or anything that they could provide, the pies or the fruit or whatnot. And then I wanted to show one interesting feature that the Smith's farm had. and it still has, in the historical Palmyra, which was the cooper shop.
It's hard. Coopering is basically making barrels and buckets, and they were wooden, and you have to carve the sections of the buckets at angles, and they have to fit together, and then you put an iron border around them to pull them tight, and so you have to be very precise when you make buckets and barrels to hold water, and you're making them out of wood basically. But that's what they did. Hiram Smith and his father and Alvin they did coopering. They would make buckets, sell buckets, barrels, and they would also sell or repair other people's, sell to other people or repair other people's buckets or barrels that were leaking. In order to pay for the farm, the Smiths were obliged to hire themselves out as day laborers throughout the surrounding area. They dug and rocked up wells and cisterns, mowed, harvested, made cider and barrels and chairs and brooms and baskets, taught school, dug for salt, worked as carpenters and domestics, built stone walls and fireplaces, flailed grain, cut and sold cordwood, carded, washed clothes, sold garden produce, painted chairs and oilcloth coverings, butchered, dug coal, and hauled stone. And along the way, they produced between 1,000 and 7,000 pounds of maple sugar annually. And part of how Joseph Smith he met Emma was because he was out working. He'd been hired to go work for, another person who needed help. So they were, but they were very industrious, and they made their farm produce much more than similar farms in the same area.
So of course we could not put all that information in just one page. Use this as like a starting point for people to learn more about the actual situation of the Smith family, how this all began, and it has to do very much with the hard labor and the faith that this family had.
And part of what talking about how it was when he was 12 years old was sometimes people and kids get the impression that Joseph Smith's praying and pondering for a couple weeks or maybe a month or something, and then he has the first vision. And he clearly says that he was about 12, and so he's thinking, he's doing the same hard work that he does in farming to find the answer to his question. And it's about a 2-year process of thinking and praying and studying and talking and visiting different preachers. So it wasn't a quick answer to his prayer. He really had to put in the work to get that answer and be ready for it.
Okay, we'll explain more in our next videos. Thank you for watching.